Hi, greetings from the Pacific Northwest. Bo here. I'm jumping in on another vinyl thread. Bobby Gass, show us your blues. Much like him, I'm not going to show all my blues records. I don't even have that many blues records anymore, but just some representations from my collection of blues artists that I find interesting. It was kind of was a harder video to do too, because there were some things like, like Them or the Small Faces or some of these other bands that I'm like, these guys, because they had some blues leanings, but they're really more soul. So I left some of those groups out. Before I start off, though, I do want to say to my good friend Matt Sands, he's had some pretty major surgery lately, and just wanted him to know that thinking about him. So you guys, if you're of the inkling, send him your prayers and your good thoughts, your good vibes. Good guy, good friend of the channel. His channel's bigger than mine. So if you know my channel, I know you know his, DJ Mellow Yellow and the Psych Professor. Tremendous channel, good guy. I will say, if you just wanted some time off from the post office, there's easier ways to do it, Matt. There really are. Kidding. Anyhow, so we're gonna start off with this album. This is Samantha Fish, Chills and Fever. She has an album. I have all of her records, but she has an album that she did with Jesse Dayton. Of a tour she was recently on too. I think he used to be the guitar player for Waylon Jennings in that group, and that's a really great blues. Some of her stuff, she kind of, there's a lot of blues, there's a lot of hard rock, there's some soul music in here too. Like my favorite cover on here is Hello Stranger. But she's done some great covers too of Black Sabbath and Love. She did 7 and 7 Is, which isn't on here, but fantastic blues artist. She's playing tonight in Seattle. It's just that I have to work tomorrow, and Seattle's just enough of a drive that I didn't want to go. As great as I think she is, and I think you guys, if she's ever in your area, you should go see Samantha Fish. She's terrific. I saw her last year. My friend Laurel and I went to the Admiral Theater in Bremerton and saw her. I would definitely see her again if she were close like that. So Samantha Fish, terrific blues guitar player. This guy's a little bit more, well known. Bo Diddley. Hey, Bo Diddley. It's on Checker. The Bo Diddley stuff is, sometimes people run it down a little bit because a lot of it kind of has a similar sound to it. But anytime you can find Bo Diddley, this is an original too. Some of this stuff is original, some of it's reissue. But this one's an original. Find yourself some Bo Diddley in the right price range and you like that blue stuff, pick it up. Another one that's pretty well known. This is a reissue because you can tell because it's electronically reprocessed for stereo. This is Howlin' Wolf. Probably, out of all the older blues artists, probably my favorite. Bobby Gass tells a pretty good story too about having met him at a show once. That movie too, Cadillac Records, is pretty good. Talks about chess records and the Checker label and how that all came to be. And Howlin' Wolf was a major part of that. I don't need to tell you guys that. Anybody that's watching this that doesn't know some of these guys I know what to tell you. This is another reissue, and these are these French pressings. I think they're from the mid 70s, so that makes them, they're really cheap, but they sound good. This is Muddy Waters, folk singer. I know he and Muddy both did he and Wolf both did electric albums. He tended to like his, and Wolf didn't like his as much. That's why Muddy's electric album sounds a lot better. This is on Stax, and this is an original. This is Albert King, Born Under a Bad Sign. Probably one of the best solo blues albums out there. This one is going to get a little bit of a head scratcher to some people because they're going to be like, Ike and Tina, they're not blues. Yeah, but this album, The Hunter, it's on Blue Thumb. It's pretty good. This one's pretty, it's not hard to find, and it's always pretty cheap. Their stuff is always cheap. I find it, the soul music is kind of hard to find in general, but their albums tend to pop up all the time around here, and they're not expensive. But anyhow, this album is definitely a blues album, and I would pick it up. Or you. So The Doors. The Doors were an acid rock psychedelic group, of course, but they also were steeped in the blues. Their early stuff had a lot more, more blues tinge to it. This album to me is where they actually started to do more blues. I think that L.A. Woman is a blues album, period. I think after they did Soft Parade, the band kind of recognized that they were kind of getting a little lost out there, so they tried to go back to their roots. Morrison Hotel is a right step in that direction. This is one of my favorite records of theirs. In fact, I like all their records except for the Soft Parade. But this has really been of late been going up towards the top for me. So the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, they influenced a lot of these rock and roll acts. They all talk about Butterfield being the big influence. And I could have shown East West. That's the one that everybody knows. This is the first one. And I only have the first two. I used to have some others, but I purged them. It's only the first two I really like. But these guys opened the doors for a lot of rock and roll acts in the 60s to incorporate that blues sound. But everybody credits Butterfield. A lot of people credit Love too. I didn't show any Love records. But Butterfield gets a lot of credit from a lot of acts. This one's going to be kind of interesting to some people to see this. But this, Safe as Milk by Captain Beefheart, this is an original. To me, it's weird, but it's a weird blues album. Everything they did subsequent to this, in my opinion, sucked. That's just my opinion. Roast me if you want to. If you like their other stuff, like it. I don't. I only like this record. I've tried to listen to the rest of it, and I just don't like it. But this is straight up blues. It's slightly weird in places, but it's a blues album. I think it's a great one. It's got Ry Cooder on it, so that makes it good, right? Anything with Ry Cooder. Like everybody else, I'll show some Fleetwood Mac. I had a few albums to choose from. I went with the debut here, but Peter Green, I got into a little trouble recently, and I wasn't trying to, and I didn't take it personal, but on a Bobby Gas video, I commented that Mac ain't no thing without Peter Green. I always just say that because people, and it's mostly because people forget about Peter Green. They only know the Rumors On era. And Buckingham Nicks are fine. I don't dislike them, but to me, the only whenever I play Fleetwood Mac, I don't even own any of that stuff. All I own is Peter Green era stuff because that's the stuff I like to play. Peter Green is probably one of the best guitar players. John Lennon talks about him in is that the Get Back stuff? There's a whole thing that he talks about Fleetwood Mac and Peter Green and how much he likes what they sound like. This is one that I kind of debated about because there were some other bands too that I went, are these guys blues based or are they soul based? And even these guys, you know, Cream, Clapton's got some blues chops. Clapton plays a little too perfect for my taste. Don't get me wrong. And I think Ginger Baker was overrated too. Jack Bruce, to me, the guy that made Cream go, to me was Jack Bruce. But you know, on this album, there's a couple of Muddy Waters covers, and I think Cream did kind of base themselves a bit in the blues. But they were kind of all over the map. They're a great band, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. Maybe they didn't belong in this video. You know, people talk about the Rolling Stones, but how about the poor man's Rolling Stones? The Pretty Things. These guys covered a lot of Bo Diddley stuff back in the day. This is a UK original too, on the Fontana label. Pretty cool. I only have a couple Pretty Things of that. SF Sorrow. SF Sorrow would not call it a blues album. Okay, this is the Live Yardbirds. This is not an original. This is a 71 reissue, I think it is. Although when I purchased this, I thought it was an original and I paid up for it. Like, this was back in the early days. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I found this record. You know, like 15 years ago. It's like, oops. I think I spent 75 or 80 bucks on it, which is too much for a 71 reissue. But I think that was probably go for about 20 or 30. But doesn't matter. You live, you learn. It's still a great record. It's still it's a UK press too, so it's cool. But anyhow, forget about Clapton. To me, Keith Relf made the Yardbirds, and what makes great blues is harmonica, and Keith Relf's a great harmonica player. He's as good a harmonic, I'm sorry, in my opinion, he's as good a harmonica player as anybody else out there. Keith Relf had that unfortunate passing back in the 70s, got electrocuted by a poorly grounded guitar. But anyhow, Yardbirds. Here's one that I think these guys, especially off this early best of comp, the Animals. First of all, these guys wrote like the you know, the biography of the '60s. You know, if you're a Vietnam veteran, but you know, House of the Rising Sun, and we got to get out of this place. They didn't write. They didn't write House of the Rising Sun, but you know, they got arranging credits. Well, Alan Price did. But you know, I mean, they're doing stuff on here like Boom Boom and Bring It Home to Me, It's My Life. You know, blah blah blah. These guys did a lot of blues numbers, and Eric Burden's still out there doing it today, and he's got that blues mentality, right? That kind of tough guy. He may not be tall, but he's a tough guy kind of guy. Couple more and then we'll stop. Jimi Hendrix Experience. He's definitely blues based, you know. There's a great video on YouTube of him playing an acoustic guitar too, to an old blues tune. I can't remember what it was, but my favorite on here, and it feels like really heavy blues, is oh correct, I don't have my glasses. But Voodoo Child, not The Slight Return, but Voodoo Child. To me, that feels like blues. That's the one with the jammer, the 15-minute jammer. Last but not least, we'll round it out. Rolling Stones, the early Stones. You know, when they still gave a rip about Brian, when Brian still mattered in the group, they were doing lots of blues covers, lots of Chuck Berry covers. Rolling Stones were as good doing the blues as well as anybody else. Anyhow, that's it. That's my Show Us Your Blues albums. We'll see you next time. Bye.